Hello and welcome to Coffee with Carrie. Sure, there are plenty of dumb people out there who have a hard time connecting with other people for various reasons, you might imagine. But as a matchmaker, I find myself more often working with really bright, insightful, and intelligent people. Fellows usually, and at least more often than not. If you've ever explored my comment section on some of my more controversial episodes, usually controversial for ridiculous reasons, you might see an occasional butting of heads between myself and some negative person. And in those situations, I find I'm almost always channeling all the intelligent men I know, the ones I've worked with and I've come to know and love. So today I want to talk about these men and the challenges they face while dating. You might be one of them. So if that's at all interesting, I hope you'll stick around because that's what's on the agenda. Number one, being bright very often leads to being successful, and being successful is likely to lead to financial success. Being brutally honest, men who have money become very aware of the fact that they don't want to make a mistake and have to give it away. They don't want to lose their stuff, not even half of it. This can lead to a hypervigilance in trying to avoid the wrong women. They're often passing on really lovely women because they're reading situations incorrectly, which leads me to number two. Two, they want to be seen for themselves. These smart guys are on high alert to make sure that the women they date aren't solely concerned with their financial status or after their money, and that they're appreciated for all that they really have to offer, the bigger picture. Especially when working with a matchmaker, you'd think it should become easier for them to trust that I've screened for these things and I've found women whose values match their own as well as a lot of interests, etc. But I've seen a paranoia based on past experiences that's been really hard to overcome. I'm sure this is even more difficult if you're out there on your own. So I urge you to make sure that you're not jumping to conclusions and that you're giving women the opportunity to show you who they are before you start making assumptions. We've all seen movies where the prince will disguise his identity to make sure that the woman or the princess loves him for who he is and not for what he has. Well, please don't play games like this. But yeah, I understand. Successful men want to be seen for more than their success story, and that creates challenges. Number three is aging out of the dating game. When you focus on your intelligence and creating a life for yourself, very often you forget to include all aspects of a happy life. A lot of my clients have been successful men who have skated through their 20s, 30s, 40s, focused in one direction, and then suddenly they look up to find themselves in their 50s and wanting a partner. They've been so focused on creating a certain level of success, often in many areas of their lives, that they've put their entire romantic life on the back burner. And by the way, this isn't strictly a man or a male situation. I've had a lot of female clients who find themselves in the exact same predicament. Successful people in general have often put a lot of time, effort, and focus on other areas of their life that their love life takes a backseat while all of this is happening. They suddenly notice that they've created a comfortable life, but they've neglected to find somebody to share it with. And that takes us to number four, which is about family. Number four is delayed parenting. These very same men often reach out to me in a last-ditch effort. I can't tell you how many men in their early 50s have been my clients where I've had the mission of finding them somebody who's still able to bear children. Sure, there are plenty of women of childbearing age that would be open to partnering with an intelligent, kind, and successful man in his 50s, but not all of them. Most women want a man close to their same age. And interestingly, some of these men may even want a woman who's more mature and on the same level with them professionally. I want to take a minute here to welcome Tabu, a new partner to the channel. I know there are women here, like myself, who aren't currently in a relationship. Some of us have chosen to embrace a single life for now, while others are still looking for someone fantastic before pursuing a physical relationship. What I learned is that there are repercussions for mature women who aren't maintaining an active sex life, and that's why I chose to partner with Tabu. Created by women, for women, their mission is to make sexual self-care feel as natural as our skincare and exercise routines. After a really honest conversation with her own mother about the challenges of sex and menopause, the founder of Tabu partnered with gynecologists, urologists, and pelvic floor physical therapists in order to create a truly gorgeous line of tools, not toys, to help maintain sexual well-being. The Golden Hour Kit, it includes everything you need to help address common symptoms, including dryness, low libido, a lack of body confidence, stress, things that often come up as our bodies go through very normal hormonal changes. The name isn't encouraging us to keep quiet, and that's why I'm not. We have to have these conversations with one another. So take a closer look at these really glamorous tools. Just check out the link in my description box below and make sure you use the code CARRY10 to get your 10% off when you take this first step to prioritize your sexual health. And remember, as my own mother likes to say, use it or lose it. But wanting to have a family, that necessitates me having to find them someone younger usually. And this is the reason that whenever I'm screening successful women in their 40s, I've always asked whether or not they've had the opportunity to freeze their eggs. These women are really valuable to a matchmaker whose mission it is to find childbearing women for successful male clients. And for that reason, these women are definitely not a dime a dozen freezing eggs. Eggs, dozen. See what I did there? Number 5 is unrealistic expectations. This is for sure not limited to just smart people. If I'm being honest, there are a bunch of idiots even out there who are thinking that they're entitled to perfect women based purely on the fact that they're male and breathing. But intelligent guys feel deserving because they've often accomplished something impressive in other areas of their life. And of course, there's a history of successful men, often older successful men, trading on that success for youth and beauty. The challenging piece here is that my guys who are both wealthy and intelligent also want a woman who can hold her own. She's bright and beautiful, but they often want her to be successful in her own right. I made an episode a while back about whether you guys really want or need a successful woman and encouraging you to take a much closer look at this bit of criteria. I'll link to it at the end of this episode. I think it was interesting. For example, I was recently working with a man where I pointed out, so you want to have children sooner rather than later, you said, but you're also wanting your future wife to stay at home and raise those children, which I personally think is fantastic and a luxury that I wish everyone had. But you're asking me to find a successful, career-focused woman so that she can give up her career within a year and stay home, give that all up? Like, what's the logic? Is what we need to always figure out. Number 6, all work and no play. A lot of these clients, because they are bright, because they are intelligent, have become hyper-focused on creating, reaching goals, and they put all their energy into their own personal growth, interests, and professional life. Some have, perhaps, dated casually over the years, but their focus wasn't on being successful with women. So for a lot of them, we're starting at square one with dating. And if this fella's a little bit older, perhaps we didn't even have time to develop particular social skills, which leads me to number 6. A lack of necessary social skills for dating. Personally, I identify as a bit of a nerd. I can nerd out on all types of interests. Some people like the word, some people don't, but what I'm referring to is someone who spends a lot of time in their own head, which is sometimes the opposite of what's required in social situations. So a lack of comfort in approaching, talking to, and meeting women is a challenge for a lot of really bright guys. And then we have number 8, an overall lack of balance is how I would define this. Using one side of your brain only can cause you to walk lopsided. Just kidding. but, but it can cause an unbalance in our lives, often prevents us from having the skills to attract and keep someone to walk beside us through that life. So I think it's important to check in with yourself periodically to make sure that your choices are in balance with your desires. There's definitely something to be said for being a well-rounded person, and you just don't want to lose sight of that. So little time. When you're exceptionally bright, you have a lot of things that grab your attention because you're naturally curious and intelligent. And you often have a lot of varying interests. And perhaps you're always learning new things and investigating them as well. I've had so many clients who literally have zero time to date. Their days are consumed with work and their outside interests. I make them promise me that they will prioritize their romantic life now that we're working together. But I still find it incredibly difficult and challenging to hold them to it. Now, if you were thinking of becoming a matchmaker, I encourage you to think about trying to plan a date for two people with this type of a schedule. It could drive you crazy. Number 10, intelligent men have all different types of jobs, and some of these jobs don't require much in the way of conversation and social skills. They're more isolated and solitary achievements, and therefore most of this man's time is spent in his own head maybe. Sometimes these fellas don't have the conversational skills required to be great daters, which is why I have so many episodes on how to be curious, how to share stories, and all the things we talk about in creating fantastic first dates. It's with these men in mind often that these episodes are created. 11. Overanalyzing. I love finding a topic. Anything about relationships is ideal for me, and I can analyze it and think it to death. It's one of the reasons I created the playlist You Be the Coach, because I know so many of you like to analyze these dating situations too, coming to conclusions of what could have been done or what you would have said in that predicament. Hopefully you're doing it in your life in a healthy way, but there are a lot of smart people who I would define as overthinkers. Nobody's better at overthinking than intelligent people, especially with an open mind, because they can see things from multiple perspectives and analyze till the cows come home. We could do this for days. However, it's much more fruitful to be focused on the present, being in the moment, and just allow things to unfold naturally and not try to control the outcomes of every situation. Because if we're being honest, that's not even possible. And to paralyze ourselves is the opposite of our own best interest. Most of us can relate to choice paralysis by thinking about the dating apps, when there seem to be so many options available to us that we struggled to make any moves at all. We'll magnify that and make it applicable to every stage of the dating process, and you'll get a little picture of what it's like for some of these people that I've worked with who are overthinkers and overanalyze. It usually doesn't work for us in any positive way if that's something we're doing or struggling with. So if it is for you, I think you should confront it straight on and deal with it so that you can be more present and not be so distracted in that way. Number 12 is that intelligence doesn't always mean emotionally intelligent. Emotional intelligence is a skill set, and just because someone's exceptionally bright doesn't mean that's been an area of their education. Obviously, I've met quite a few very successful men and women who are also socially gifted. Their professional success is based on having social skills and charisma, always helpful skills in making a connection with people in general, and the opposite sex in particular. But even some of these fellas, once they get past the initial stages of dating, struggle to make sense of the normal relationship challenges that are sure to arise when two people come together. Those normal frictions aren't something that they've been prepared for. Number 13 is the challenge of small talk. People who are really bright feel that they always want to be having worthwhile conversations, and a lot of times have a hard time embracing simple conversations or talking about themselves. some of their interests and sharing some basic stories that would let someone into their life. I understand that you guys want a really bright woman who can have deep conversations with you, but that's not what your first date is about. That's not what your first couple of dates are about. And I'm in no way advocating that this needs to be boring. That's why I have probably a dozen episodes on first date conversations and how to keep them from being boring. But getting into deeper subjects, playing devil's advocate, sharing the latest thing you've learned from some study or you've read about, that's just not going to fly with somebody who isn't invested in you yet. People need to like you first, and that's what the goal is with these first dates. Not to make them like you, but to let them see you so they can figure out whether or not they do. So as you can see, there are some challenges to being bright, but none of them are insurmountable. It just takes approaching things in a different way, which is typically easy for people who are very bright to do. It's just really being aware of some of them and changing approaches. I hope you found that interesting or helpful. If you did, please listen to my mother, take her cue, and give the episode a thumbs up. I'd appreciate that. I think you might really enjoy this episode, so check that out next. But before you do, hit that subscribe button. I'll look forward to seeing you back here again soon. And until next time, have a good one.